Welcome to a new episode of Stoic Mind by Alan, a space to pause for a moment, observe what we feel, and learn how to live with more awareness in the face of what we can't control. Asterisk. The inner ruler is that part of you that doesn't scream, doesn't complain, and doesn't panic. It's the part that observes what's happening and decides how to respond. Marcus Aurelius says that when this inner ruler lives in accordance with nature, it doesn't fight the facts. It doesn't argue with reality. It understands it. And from there, it acts. Living in agreement with nature is not resignation. It's accepting that the world is not designed to please you. Things happen. Plans fall apart. People fail. The body gets tired. That's not an anomaly. That's the norm. The problem begins when you expect something else. When you cling to how life should be. That's why the inner ruler doesn't have a preference for any specific outcome. It doesn't fall in love with a particular scenario. It doesn't need everything to go as planned in order to be at peace. Because the moment you marry an expectation, any deviation turns into frustration. And constant frustration makes you weak. The Stoic doesn't choose the circumstances. He chooses his attitude toward them. He moves toward what appears, but with caution. Not impulsive, but attentive. Not passive, but flexible. He works with what is, not with what he wishes had been. And here one of the most powerful ideas appears, turning even obstacles into raw material. Not avoiding them, not denying them, using them. The obstacle stops being an enemy and becomes material to build character, judgment, and strength. Marcus Aurelius explains this with the image of fire. A small flame is put out by almost anything. A minor problem is enough to suffocate it. But a great fire does the opposite. Everything thrown onto it gets consumed and makes it rise higher. The difference isn't what falls onto the fire, but the strength of the fire itself. Life will throw things at you no matter what. The question is whether that feeds you or extinguishes you. When everything knocks you down, it's not because the world is especially cruel. It's because your inner fire isn't strong enough yet. And that's not an insult, it's a responsibility. Fire is trained. It's cultivated. It grows through discipline, reflection, and constant practice. That's why the next idea is so direct and so clear. No action should be taken at random. Living in reaction mode is living without art, without form, without direction. Stoicism isn't emotional improvisation, it's method. It's having an inner standard that guides your decisions, even when you're tired, irritated, or confused. The art Marcus Aurelius refers to is the art of living well. Thinking before acting. Not letting impulse rule. Because when you act at random, you're not free, you're predictable. Circumstances move you, not principles. In the end, it all comes down to this. You can't control what happens to you, but you can decide whether it breaks you or transforms you. The Stoic doesn't ask for an easy life. He asks for a character so firm that whatever arrives becomes fuel. That inner control doesn't mean becoming cold or insensitive. It's not about shutting down what you feel, but about understanding it. Feeling isn't the problem. The problem is when feeling takes the wheel. You can deeply love someone and still recognize that they're not right for your life. That doesn't invalidate the love. What makes it destructive is the lack of awareness about what you do with it. When you govern your actions, love stops being an excuse to lose yourself. You can be in love and still decide clearly. Decide to set boundaries. Decide to leave. Decide to stay. But from clarity, not impulse. Stoicism doesn't ask you not to feel. It asks you not to be a slave to what you feel. Suffering often comes from attachment to a scenario. To the idea that something should remain the same. That a relationship should stay like it was at the beginning. That a person should stay. That a stage of life should last longer. But nothing stays fixed. Clinging to a frozen image of the past is a slow way to be unhappy. It's like going back to a job that once made you happy, expecting to feel the same. Or returning to a city where you were a different person, with different energy, different dreams. The place is still there, but you're not the same. And neither is the context. Pretending everything should remain intact is denying the nature of change. People change. Relationships transform. People leave. People die. Scenarios shift whether you want them to or not. And the more you resist that, the more pain you accumulate. Not because loving is wrong, but because you're asking for permanence in a world that runs on transition. That's why enjoying the present isn't a pretty phrase. It's a philosophical stance. It's understanding that what's with you today, a person, an emotion, a stage of life, isn't guaranteed tomorrow. And that's exactly why it deserves full attention today. Not possession, not demand, presence. When you accept that nothing is the same and nothing is guaranteed, you stop squeezing life so tightly. You love better. You work better. You live more lightly. Not because you care less, but because you understand more. And from there, every decision becomes more conscious, more human, and above all, more right for you. When you understand this, Stoic virtues stop being distant concepts and become living tools. Because they're not meant for when everything is going well, but precisely for these moments when feeling is inevitable and deciding is difficult. Clarity appears when you can look at that love, that stage, that emotion without lying to yourself, without romanticizing what no longer is, without inventing stories just to avoid letting go. Seeing reality as it is, not only the part that comforts you. Saying, this moves me, this hurts me, but this is not sustainable. And that clarity itself is already an act of freedom. Moderation shows up when, even while feeling, you don't overflow. When you don't react from urgency or fear of loss. When you don't turn the present into a cage. You enjoy what's there, but you don't squeeze it. You know nothing belongs to you, not people, not moments, not even past versions of yourself. Honesty becomes internal before it's external. Not betraying yourself just to avoid being alone. Not staying where you're already breaking. Not using love as an excuse to tolerate what you know isn't right. And also being honest with the other person. Not promising what you can't sustain. Not demanding permanence in a changing world. And strength holds all of it together. Because seeing clearly, moderating yourself, and acting honestly doesn't always feel good. Sometimes it hurts. Sometimes it means leaving while you still love. Closing cycles that aren't broken, but are complete. Accepting loss without hardening yourself. Strength isn't enduring out of pride. It's having the character to do what's right even when it costs you. When you live this way, the present becomes a livable place. Not something you try to freeze, but something you move through with awareness. You love knowing it can end. You work knowing it can change. You live knowing everything is temporary. And far from making you cold, it makes you more human, more present, and more free. Think about that love that's no longer there. Not the idealized version, not the beautiful memories that show up when you're alone, but what it really was at the end. The conversations that no longer flowed. The where. That inner feeling that something wasn't quite right. It still hurt. And it still hurts. But accepting that it ended doesn't erase what you felt. It just keeps you from getting stuck there. Sometimes you still love someone who's no longer part of your life. And that doesn't make you weak. What breaks you is wanting it to be what it was, or forcing yourself to feel something different, just to avoid facing the emptiness. Loving also means knowing how to let go without turning memory into a chain. Think about that message that never arrived. About all the times you checked your phone waiting for a sign. It's not the person that hurts most, it's the expectation. The story you told yourself about how things should have unfolded. When you let go of that scenario, the pain changes shape. It doesn't squeeze as tightly. Think about a job that once made you want to get up in the morning. where you felt you were growing, where everything made sense. And then, without noticing, it stopped being that way. Staying there waiting for it to feel the same as living on autopilot. Not because the job is bad, but because you're no longer the same person. Think about a city you want to return to because you were happy there. You walk the same streets, go into the same places, but something doesn't fit. It's not nostalgia, it's reality. You changed. People changed. The moment passed. And accepting that hurts less than pretending it didn't single quotes to think even about yourself. About versions of you that no longer exist. About decisions you made with the awareness you had back then. Punishing yourself for that is forgetting that you did the best you could at the time. Growing also means stopping the demand to be the same person you once were. When you understand this, the present feels lighter. Not because nothing matters, but because you're no longer carrying what can't be repeated. And from there, living feels more honest, more real, more peaceful. This was Stoic Mind by Allen. Thank you for listening. Keep what resonated with you and take it into your daily life, calmly and clearly. We'll hear each other in the next episode.